I'm going to put more camera and show what is going on. Time. How come I'm doing my work halfway? No, today. This one got already have Marina. I think I never up. This they call it this. And just like that time I was in the this Starbucks. They keep trying to play politics. They keep believing the Chinese civilization. Hey, how come this one cannot? Is it because this? But normally my this one is okay. Lousy this one. There's something new. Let me see. There, no more. Okay. What's this? Okay. Women's Day is supposed to be a day of happiness this few days. And then they want to come and disturb people. A lot of times now they do not know many things because that time I was at service office and they try to cover up and many people never get it. Many people never get it. And I go through so many phases on this and then not even are proud when I'm in this service office. The social office is no more already. In May, we are going to have no more. When I go through all this, they say they train me well. This is not training. They look at themselves as trainer. It's not training at all. It's deliberately life firing, life slaughtering. What is this? Seldom I go there. There's nothing much over there. But sometimes I just go there to take pictures, go there for a walk. So notifications. Hey, what is this? Very nice. There was no an error progressing on this. Oh, so it's like Disney Frozen the Heat, my offer. That's my offer. So one thing about this, is I'm trying to think. You have an app, but you cannot have it in a maybe PC. How to have? Why it cannot be done? Website app. So someone can create one. Why don't Google create? And Google also have, but they can create the one for the web. You know, they can create one for the app like that goes to the app. So this will be more like going in and the app. Yeah, it's something like emulator, but more than that actually. So people can just go. It's not like the Windows in mobile phone, Windows in PC, Windows in mobile phone. Now you have the Google Play, then you can have a Google something like PC. So you go into the Google PC and then you can just scan from your device in time, Bluetooth, and then you scan, and then it will go inside your, this Google, let's say PC. So it's an app. It goes in your software, and it goes in the app. Like NVIDIA, all this is an app. So once it goes in, everything you just scan, 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 scan. Whatever you can see from the website, it goes to this app. Just like this, it goes to this app, and then from there. So there are two ways, like just like the mobile. One is the web browser. One is the app. The same having a web browser and an app in the PC, in the laptop, in the operating system, in Windows operating system and the Apple operating system. And then from there, it's easy, isn't it? You say always use now. You have to use the mobile phone. You have to use the PC. And sometimes you can use in PC. You cannot use mobile phone. Sometimes you can use mobile phone. You cannot use PC. So it's not able to in the end not able in the end of the day not able to use. You see the girls themselves, they themselves not own up. Whatever happens last time in the I said already in the China, they themselves not own up. I don't know what is going on. When I was in Philippines, they keep the Hingati vice in Philippines. They said he do not know lah. Don't ask him lah. They know what's going on. Even in Vietnam, they know what's going on. I do not know what's going on in China. Don't anyone say all these spread false rumors, all this. All the script from Singapore send all the script to Philippines and in Vietnam. And they think they trust the United devices in Philippines and in Vietnam. They're trying to tell them, don't link to them, don't connect them. They also don't want to connect these people. The people that wrote the script in Singapore. It's not hypocrite. Who are not loyal to their country? Who are not loyal to their country? Are they loyal to their country? They are not right. How about others? They are not loyal to their country. Then what about the rest of the people in the world and in Singapore? If they are loyal, why they want to use the device? Are they the official or the unofficial or the unofficial? So at the end of the day, whatever I'm trying to say, they are loyal to their country because they know there could be a lot of foreign interference, intervention, or whatever on their own country. They have DFAs, just like Singapore. They have their MFA. Right? Everybody is defending and guarding, protecting their country. Everybody are security guard. Right? When their door is open, they are security guard. When the door is closed, they are security guard. If they are at home, if not, other people will guard their house. If nobody guard their house, at least they have a CCTV camera to guard their house. Everywhere when we go outside, we are protecting our country, directly, indirectly, or literally speaking. In our country, or when we go overseas, we are guarding their country also. So that's why I say, as you know, they don't have, they just, everything they say, they are just playing politics. They are just playing politics, just playing politics. Okay, like I said, I got no time. Let's look at this one. Don't leave your privacy. This one really, I say it's the sort of diversion you call in many things, in many is that whatever is the lesser have issuing order because there's a of they're using the 孙子 law and 36 seconds for many things. It could be also to suppress. I said creating a border between they are the directors, you are the soldiers. Pulling rank or whatever. Cancel trash can. Oh my god. This one I think I could spend. So if you know the five principles of wisdom, then you don't have to worry. Because once you have the five principles of wisdom, you can overcome your own problem. Know yourself, you can overcome the problem. All these years, I'm not proud of it, but it's not that they're proud of it. All these years, I try to live to live. Whether I'm working or not, I still live to live. Whether I have medical problem or not, I still live to live. Whether I have diabetes, whether I want to chop off my leg, I still live to live. Some people they want to buy the small one scooter and just screw around. It's their life. For me, I don't. I walk. That's all. They can try to claim all this. Of the six, cannot clothe, cannot eat, cannot bathe, and then I think many others need to escort to the toilet, need to push the wheelchair, and another one. There are six of them. As long as you're one of the above, you can apply for cashier. I already convert already. So you see, along the way, I have to do my thing. Until now, I can't finish my thing. I was trying to do my thing. Halfway, you see, then they always interfere my, my, my activities. But I'm not frustrated. I just take longer time to do my activities. That's why I waited for a long time for the internet. I'm finally able to access to the internet to do my work. So I said, well, the purchase of Blizzard and Microsoft on Blizzard is fantastic. They should actually, where this Ubisoft have the support from Tencent, and also Epic Launcher, don't worry, they got the support from Sony along the way or other sponsors, and also have the what else? I think EA Sports, maybe yeah, Activision also EA Sports. So maybe I think no EA Sports is by others one, but maybe they may buy over EA Sports. So so hopefully things can get better. Wow, Realm versus Realm, online stripes of fate, dungeon preview, set scrolling, lost arc, and this later than I close. Lost arc PV cap, big with 48. And it's good to open for a while sometimes. Although they say the floor is dirty, it's not really dirty. I put my one chair in the so it's nothing. And let's see what is this. Not much. Much is so this one is interesting. So, okay. Division 2, Frozen Flame. A lot of this not able to update myself on my things I want to see. Anyway, it's slow. The song you see it very well done. Release the games that have been released and then followed by the survival mode. So they have each different like project management, what they need to do, and then they accomplish, then they proceed with the another category. uh, and then after that they proceed with the on the this upcoming updates on the mounts, enchanting, trading posts, see all this that they do, and enemy um, improvement. But then they talk about, oh my god, the ants come again. They will come and attack me. I spray already, but don't know what. So that's only a few. They just come not in. Because they are still trying to build their house or relocate. So they can't attack them again. So after that, we also have the upcoming to be announced, the upcoming updates, and then also, so it's very well kind of well planned. So this is how they try to show people the roadmap and all this. So it's very interesting how people do their project management. This one they does sounds actually to me. Oh, finish already. Chapter already, sir. Okay, so check where's the download. Okay, let me share with people the Channel News Asia. Later check where is my where I see. And then let's move on to Channel News Asia. Okay, let me talk very simple ones. Human air pollution, oh my god, so don't go there. Bangkok not very sure. So Malaysia acts and charge on with all this along the way. Using identify a lot of political turmoil, so the currencies can be weakened 3.40, 3.45. Along the way, you go to 3.4 because many Malaysians need to live whether in JB or in wherever they are, they need to continue to live. So Singapore identified Padang surrounding architects and potential candidates being processed already in use to verify qualification of employment pass applicants. So and then Singapore identified Padang surrounding. So process already in place to verify qualification of employment pass applicants, and then let's move on. Let's see important things, and then indigenous like again all this as normal motorcycles, but speed bumps ahead for mass adoption. So a lot of things people may use electric motorcycles, but do not know whether it could be mass. It could be helping the Malays, but unfortunately they didn't try to convince the government to help the government so that then they can help them everybody. They are motorcyclists as well. So India again and obviously going following visit again Nepal playing in South Korea. Not much things going on and due for main condemned Russia strike protests to Western Indonesia. It's better here because if I rent there, I need two tables like this and this one, and it's $600. So might as well see. And at most, I spend $300 for the utility bills, game fine, all this Johor flat push up prices of money. So they need a lot of money to send them because they need to. So should we export the food from JB? The fine better be much more self-sufficient. If not, end up have to pay more. And their currencies may try to raise, it doesn't help because many people so go from Malaysia to Singapore to work. So Russia, Ukraine, small country like Singapore skip sovereign mind and look beyond headlines. You see, small must keep the sovereign mind and look beyond headlines. Now then, after 1 year, what does it have? It doesn't have like Singapore. You can say he just want to cycle him because that time he was going to America and they try to cycle him to make sure that he support the um, America. But in the end, they get caught in the politics. Why get caught in the end? It doesn't have focus on the main problem. Focus on national security and national defense. So and so in the end of the day, besides this, also the others, nine total defense system in the same priority. I doubt they can do it in the same priority level at the moment. So let's move on. Still, you are waiting for everybody to catch up. A lot of things improvement again, knowing the lapses to news. What about the media? Doesn't happen. I'm not around. I never see the white paper. But the most foremost is to prevention, detection early warning system. And most important, because of this, we can have detection early warning system in every assisted with AI technology in energy. Then we will also go through the same type of operation in a very difficult, with much more steps involved. All this can be prevented. You don't need the people, the resources, and everything. You don't need to spend another 200 billion or more. You can reduce all this before the virus arrives into a human body, whether in Singapore or foreigner coming in with a virus. All this can be done. So COE for commercial vehicle rise to a new high. Price again, all this of course, luxury and certain cars. Cars is depreciation. 当时10年前买 is depreciation. You buy 10 years ago, you depreciate, you need to buy a new car. And new car, and then new car. Keep up with the Joneses. What for? No point. Compare others, compare oneself better. Don't compare others, compare oneself. So in the end of the day, whatever people have, 10 Ferraris is their own happiness. Just wish them happy. Their own business. Don't compare others. I say, I want to bring them down, destroy them, want to jealous, want to envy. No need. Oh, and then you go and work on them, this and that. Everybody living in HDB, plus or minus, they suffer along the way. In the end, I'm here because I happen to be here. In time, I may have one, but I still don't know. But it's better to have here and monitor my girls when I went out. I also came in out into here, but that's a long story. So don't compare others, compare. I do my own things. What they want to pay bill, in time I'll pay everything. So in the end, there are many things in life that everybody focus on their own project management, how they want to manage their expenses or whatever. See, all these doesn't help us. The end of the day, what it is, you most important, try to improve your living legitimacy. Number two, try to have the wisdom. Try to put things in a strategic manner. Try not to, for health, for safety, for security. You wouldn't want to put somewhere where the thing can fall when people sleep. The thing, the all this is their own. So they have to be aware. That girl, of course, very smart in all this, and trying to can do the feng shui for housing and all this. Of course, if she's good, she can do this for people as a consultant, not only selling the books, but as a consultant for all this. So all this can be done, but you have to go and do your own market your own business, your own whatever is product or services. Leap of channel 5 to get homework help. Then this message given of the budget proposal. Month March, little long, was extra 5 up to 5 as part of it. So it's a nuclear power audit. Why do you want to have audits? It doesn't make any sense, but again, America is benefiting from it. So again, I say, how Singapore use the, I say China as vanguard. I always say, 说你很聪明，没有想到 use China as vanguard. China compete with America. China compete with American as allies, not Singapore. But more important, focus on the six hotspot. China is always with America. Number two, China against Canada, not at the moment. Along the way, China against Australia, and Singapore not in the picture, but invisible, 透明的. And number four will be UK. So where is Singapore? Invisible. Use China against the rest of the country. Why must Singapore be caught up by America to vanguard against China? Let them own self sort out their own problem. Because we are a small country, we should focus on something more important, our domestic problem. If America want to use Canada, America use Australia, that's their own problem. They don't know how to do it. They want to be part of the Five Eyes, the four courts, like other countries, and followed by three, the one AS, AU or AUS or whatever, and then followed by the two. Let them be part of all this. don't have any pact with America. I say why? Because we don't need, please, please, America, choo me. Please allow, you know, more American investments in China. America, they can invest in Singapore for their interest, interest, DC, because they need to invest in Singapore to get the interest, the money they get from Singapore, and many others, and more, and also in the investment too. But again, some many things they're not able to export out. They are trying to use technology to apply technology in Singapore and many others, social media and all. So many Americans may come here to send the money from Singapore to US, from Singapore to US. So along the way, as long as Singapore currency is getting stronger along the way, and with many other investments from other countries, they don't have to worry Singapore, because I say Singapore is a sea, the weather, safe haven. But doesn't mean Singapore is a safe haven means that always everything in Singapore is safe. You have to be able to counter against the bad weather condition. If not, here flood there, flood then who want to invest? So elderly, open store at 3, in Tanglin. So all this, because he may be nothing better to do, open at 3 and all this. It's good also, because around this time you have the people that are working 24/7 around the area. So Tanglin Hawk is, I think it's the other one, right? I don't think it's the other one. So it's another place. Anyway, let's move on. As I said, also give her 20, assuming her value. See, everyone, they just want to give everybody's life miserable. Why they want to think that they are giving everybody's life miserable? What do they get? Everybody need to live. They have to pay GST. They're just not delaying buying this time. No, they're just passing their time in order to live. And sometimes this is just part of their business to make themselves busy. So don't need to go around trying to destroy everybody's life. The more they do, they become more cheating, addictive to destruction. Everybody are busy. As hawkers, they are very busy actually. They have their own things to do. Everybody out there. Even I myself, I also my own thing. Why I want to say, oh, my life is better than them? Why compare others, compare ourselves? No need to tell the world that my life is better than them. My life is not better than them. I also have to pay GST. I also have my own bills to pay. I also try to manage my expenses. Again, then after say, oh, what is your next bill? How about the notifies their next bill? When they're going to settle this? When they're going to settle that? When they're going to settle this? What if people return that to them and remind them when they're going to settle this? When they're going to settle that? When they're going to settle? They also got pressure, isn't it? So you see, at the negative expenses and consequences. They're just deliberately, the directors are deliberately creating people to uh, creating the body that between themselves so that they can, the Unity boys are their soldiers, they can continue to destroy as many people as possible. And of course, they will say, then you, why they are thinking like that? Uh, it shows that they have their own secrets of hidden agenda. Uh, so, most important, anybody tries to compare others, just tell them, don't compare others, compare themselves. So, ask me, no distance on the appeal. Is a hospital. A mosquito and looking. Okay, that's all. No more. Maybe later then I will see other news. I'm going out to for my dinner, and then later then I see my charging. I think it's okay. Closed all the windows already because it's getting cold. Hello, I'm back already. Actually, I want to go out, but I just eat because I have work to do. So I do my work. No time for other things. Nothing to buy because I need the. I don't want to eat the all those very sweet, and I don't like to eat outside. So I just buy. Because the power, if I need to eat, I have to kind of have to buy, take away the food. So I already said what are the things that they need to do. So they have to faster go and do what they yeah in time today and support them also. But today I just take away. But today I went there. Maybe afternoon I went there. Dinner I went there. Into from the chicken I don't like because the chicken is chicken wing. I don't like chicken wing. Why cannot? Hmm.
Leverage trades amid high volatility in the stocks. Pledging of these stocks as collateral is also not allowed. Now, Adani Group shares have rallied over the last 6 sessions, driven by a series of positive work. Let's have a look at how they're performing. Adani Enterprises now lower on profit taking by 0.75%. Adani Power and Wilmar, though, is in positive territory. That's the latest in business news for now.
Russia has launched a new deadly onslaught against Ukraine, pounding the country with its biggest strike in weeks. The early morning attack targeted critical infrastructure and residential buildings in 10 regions, including Kyiv, the Black Sea port of Odessa. The barrage knocked out power, water, and heating in some parts. Electricity at Europe's largest nuclear power plant has also been cut off as a result of the rocket fire. The complex has been occupied by Russian forces since March last year. However, Ukrainian technicians still operate the facility. Both Kyiv and Moscow have accused each other of repeatedly shelling the plant. Amid global concerns, fighting there could lead to a major radiation disaster. But Ukraine says Russia fired 81 missiles, saying Moscow launched almost every kind of projectile and managed to shoot down at least 34 rockets and 4 Shahed suicide drones. 6 hypersonic Kinzhal missiles were used, which Kyiv says it was unable to intercept. Still ahead on Asia now, experts blame poor drainage for worsening floods in Malaysia. Evacuations swell in the country's worst hit state of Johor. And 2 Indonesian match officials sentenced to jail over their involvement in last October's deadly football stampede.
After this order, I will have earned around $50. Flexible working hours and money streaming. But what's really beyond plain sight for food delivery workers?
One of the grievances we have is about the non-transparency from the platforms.
It sounds easy to earn a decent income from just being a rider.
It may seem so, but
The special series on Talking Point, Sundays on CNN.
This Saturday, how you can invest in China's economic recovery. Lessons from billion-dollar startups that go bust.
there's always a common thing when there are pitfalls.
Smart homes. They're convenient, but could they also be unsafe?
The moment you're connected devices, you are actually prone to some attacks.
Money Mind, Saturday at 10:30 p.m.
For the items that were used in Singapore, right? Yeah. Updating this hour's top stories. Russia launches a new wave of missiles on Ukraine, targeting critical infrastructure and residential buildings. Some areas have lost power, water, and heating. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol set to meet Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida in Tokyo next week. It's the first such visit in 12 years, after Seoul announced a plan to end a dispute over wartime forced labor. And Malaysia's former Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin will be charged in court tomorrow for corruption-related offences. This comes after allegations of his abuse of stimulus programs during the pandemic when he was leader. And earlier we spoke with Harrison Cheng, Director at Specialist Risk Consultancy Control Risks. And he talked about the implications of Mr. Muhyiddin's appearance at the MACC and how the country's political landscape might be impacted by the latest development.
Muhyiddin is obviously, in the past 2 years, he's been seen as someone in the running for Prime Minister again. So in last year's drama that unfolded after the election, Muhyiddin and Anwar were basically neck and neck in terms of attempting to form their government. Obviously, Anwar prevailed, but Muhyiddin still had the ambition to return as Prime Minister. However, in the current situation that he's in, tomorrow when he is charged by the MACC, he faces a tricky position. He has probably no choice but to step aside temporarily from his positions in Perikatan Nasional, which is the opposition coalition, as well as Bersatu. And why I say that is because just a while ago, when one of his Bersatu party leaders was charged, that person chose to resign. And when he chose to resign, Muhyiddin defended the resignation, saying that it was not because he was guilty, but because Bersatu wanted to set a standard, that anyone who is charged with corruption should step aside from their party positions. And that means that if Muhyiddin is seen to do otherwise, that means clinging on to his party positions, he will be seen as pretty hypocritical. And that has wider implications for Perikatan Nasional, especially the fact that they have made anti-corruption basically their key defining issue in terms of going after Anwar and UMNO, which is obviously Perikatan's main threat. And especially this year when there are 6 state elections to be held, Muhyiddin being seen as weak on anti-corruption will most likely have some negative electoral implications for them. I think that everyone expected Pakatan Harapan and Anwar to be sort of more favorable of a level political playing field. And I guess those who supported Anwar and those who supported Pakatan wanted that to happen in Malaysia. But I would say that in the past few months of Anwar being in power, we have also seen certain troubling signs of behavior perpetrated by previous UMNO and Perikatan-led governments now happening again under Anwar. Certain decisions that Anwar's government has taken has shown that he is not afraid to compromise a bit on his principles in order to achieve what is pragmatically needed for him to stay in power. So the most recent example, which I will just briefly cite, is that the Home Ministry has decided to exempt UMNO from certain rules in their party constitution that would possibly have caused UMNO to be deregistered. And I mean, the cynical sort of read on this is that, the Home Ministry, which is controlled by someone close to Anwar, has decided to do this because they realize that UMNO is actually necessary for the unity government to survive. So when you look at all these different instances, it's not hard to say to come to the conclusion that there are some political considerations going to this, and that Muhyiddin's own criticisms of Anwar are not necessarily unfounded.
Well, staying in Malaysia, the number of flood evacuees in the country's worst hit state of Johor is rising, even as dips were seen in Malacca and Pahang. At least half a dozen people have died after heavy rains inundated parts of the country, with more than 45,000 displaced. Now, most of Johor's 10 districts are still affected by the deluge. Batu Pahat and Mersing are among the worst affected. But authorities say fewer relief centers are operational now as the flood situation and weather in several districts improve. They say the rise in the number of evacuees is due to the flow of water from upstream areas. Officials also say that all affected states in the country will enter the flood recovery phase soon. The program will focus on cleanup, infrastructure repair, and solid waste management. Experts say poor drainage along major rivers is a key reason for those massive floods in Johor. The dumping of trash may have clogged up the waterway. They're calling on the government to raise public awareness about river pollution and boost cleanup plans in rural areas. Among the tens of thousands displaced by floods in the Malaysian state of Johor, more than 10,000 are children. And they've also said that these young victims could suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. Some support groups are providing them with the necessary resources to process their emotions. Have a look at the report.
Healing, educating, and empowering through art. That's the aim of support group MyWIP Healing in reaching out to young flood victims in Johor. The group is led by clinical psychologist and lecturer Hidayah Muhammad, and she's assisted by several student volunteers. They traveled more than 200 kilometers from Kuala Lumpur to this shelter in Pago, where dozens of children are seeking refuge.
Sometimes the children are unable to express emotions and they couldn't understand. So we are here to give them emotional outlet. We're giving them a safe space for them to release whatever the things that are happening inside. They're unable to express it out.
Through art and sensory play, the volunteers took the opportunity to also teach the children about climate change. The children aged between 7 and 17 participated in various group activities, listening attentively on environmental awareness while enjoying time spent with their friends.
Boleh saya nak pakai itu laut cuba bersih. Tak ada menggunakan mati, terikat, makan plastik. Saya rasa macam happy sangat-sangat sebab dapat berkumpul dengan kawan-kawan kan, dapat main macam dulu-dulu. Sebab sekarang kan tengah semua orang sedih kan, banjir-banjir semua ni. So saya happy lah main macam tu kan.
The government social welfare department has also placed counselors at these shelters to offer psychological first aid and emotional support. Some 11,000 families have been seeking shelter for more than a week as they await flood water levels to recede. The mental health support will be vital for victims of all ages to overcome these challenging times and rebuild their lives. Pamela Lim, CNA, Pago, Johor.
An Indonesian court has jailed 2 football match officials for negligence over last October's deadly stadium stampede. It's the country's first rulings on the tragedy which killed 135 people. The judges found match organizer Abdul Haris guilty of negligence and sentenced him to 18 months in prison. While Suko Sutrisno, a security official, has been charged with the same offence and sentenced to 1 year behind bars. 3 police officers have also been charged over the incident and are awaiting verdicts. The stampede at the football stadium in East Java occurred after police fired tear gas into packed stands when fans invaded the pitch. It's one of the world's deadliest disasters in sports history. Indonesia's Human Rights Commission concluded that the primary cause of the stampede was police firing 45 rounds of tear gas into the crowd in an attempt to control the hordes of people. Riot control measures have long been banned by the football governing body, FIFA. Women in Turkey have defied a ban on protests to rally on International Women's Day. Authorities allowed small celebrations in the area, but crowds eventually swelled to about 2,000. Police fired pepper spray after a group of demonstrators forced their way through the police barriers. At least 30 people were reportedly detained. Many were calling for freedom, eradication of violence, and better economic conditions for women. Well, this is the second year Istanbul has banned Women's Day marches along a popular street. Authorities say such rallies could provoke segments of Turkish society, lead to attacks that threaten national security. So ahead on Asia now, research shows that plastic entering oceans could nearly triple by the end of next decade if left unchecked. And a sneak peek into CNA's digital series, Our Blind Kitchen. Find out how two visually impaired chefs are cooking up a storm at a new cafe in town.
Many people just remember Taiwan for our semiconductor.
It's a shame because we have the infrastructure, the talent. We're a developer of augmented reality technology.
First quantum software and semiconductors. The first mobile music NFT platforms in the world.
Join me as I learn from users in Asia in real life.
You can only hide secrets like this for so long.
Oh, look at this. Repatriation of Chinese seamen and Liverpool. When the men disappeared, it was an awful thing to happen, and a lot of people suffered.
There are a lot of people in this country who don't know nothing about it.
And that's a bloody disgrace.
He was targeted because he was a person of colour. This was her country, and yet they still had to leave.
They stood side by side with the Australians in the war, and they had just as much right to be in Australia as I did.
That 1 week in jail changed my father for the rest of his life. He wasn't a criminal. He just wanted to be with his wife and his children.
The Exiles starts Monday, 20th March at 7 p.m. on CNA.
Hello, celebrity. No, traitor.
But the items that were used in olden Singapore, right? Yeah, very good. Good job, right?
문학이나 예술에 관심이 많은 사람들, 그런 아티스트들이 살았던 동네에 기도해야 돼요.
今日経済人間と道路の関係っていうのがあるわけなんですけども。
Le béret est un produit qui a traversé les âges.
Space is a really important part of understanding food. What we're actually doing is reinventing agriculture because everything has to be served.
Well, now got two. One more.
Good to have you back. Scientists have uncovered an unprecedented rise in plastic pollution. A new study shows that more than 170 trillion plastic particles are currently floating on the surface of the world's oceans, up from just 16 trillion pieces in 2005. Well, experts are warning that the figure could nearly triple by 2040 if no action is taken. A study evaluated trends of ocean plastic from 1979 to 2019. Researchers found a major increase from 2004, which they say coincided with an explosion in plastic production. The trillions of plastic particles in the ocean now weigh around 2.4 million metric tons. Researchers are calling for a reduction in the production of plastics. They warn that a cleanup is futile if plastics are pumped into the environment at the current rate. The study's lead author says that plastic pollution is in every biome and not just confined to oceans anymore. There's been new evidence of potential harm caused by pervasive plastic pollution. Research shows significant levels of microscopic plastic particles in many human organs. And there's also a new plastic-induced disease found in seabirds. Global negotiators are now working on a legally binding UN treaty to end plastic pollution. It's set to be negotiated by the end of next year. Well, earlier on Asia First, Julie Yu and Avril Hong spoke to Dr. Paul Harvey, a scientist and plastics expert with Environmental Science Solutions. They started by asking him if he thinks the findings from the report are worse than expected.
The data in this most recent report can be described as nothing other than phenomenal. 170 trillion microplastic particles floating in the ocean. It's almost unimaginable what that looks like. That's what sets this new research apart from other information that we already have. We knew the situation was pretty bad. There's been some work recently over, let's say, the last decade that points to plastic pollution in the oceans being a significant concern for us. But this is really the first time that we're seeing these sorts of numbers. And it's worth noting as well, the authors of this study suggest that this is probably an underestimate based on their modelling and the data that's available to them. So we're probably expecting to see even more plastic pollution in the ocean than what this study is predicting. And that's just phenomenal.
Dr. Harvey, the main source of the plastics tends to come from coastal nations, correct me if I'm wrong, but marine dumping is also an issue. Given this latest report, what sort of comprehensive policy action do you think is required to stop the pollution?
Yeah, that's right. It's interesting you say that the coastal communities or coastal countries tend to be the producers or the sources of marine plastic. It's actually everybody that's producing this plastic that ends up in the marine environment, because that's how the shipping and the trade of plastic around the world currently works. And so we might have a landlocked country that's generating a lot of plastic that actually might export its plastic to a coastal country, and that plastic then might end up in the river. So we're all needing to take a bit more responsibility about our waste. And of course, the first thing that needs to happen is, well, the reduction in plastic production. Plastic in and of itself is an important material. It's a very valuable resource, but we're currently using it in ways that aren't sensible, aren't the most intelligent way to use this resource. So we need to shift how we think about plastic and how we use it. So do away with a lot of those single-use, what I refer to as silly plastic uses, and really focus on what do we need plastic for. And then once we've established what we need plastic for in the modern economy, then start to come up with ways to actually manage plastic across the entire product and material life cycle. So we're not seeing plastic at the end of its first use life cycle become something that is seen as a waste. Rather, that is a commodity that then gets returned into the life cycle of plastic. It might get returned into the same product on repeat, i.e. recycling. It might get used in other areas and other systems. So some people might refer to that as a circular economy system. We need something of that nature so that we don't see plastic getting discarded to the environment or set into the waste with no value. That's the only way that we can really solve these problems.
Yeah, and the report just echoes what you just said, that the call for reduction in the production of plastics. So Doctor, what do you see as the biggest hurdles that need to be overcome to solve this issue? Is it more of a mindset change or finding that there's a revolutionary alternative to plastic?
We need a lot of solutions, but one of the biggest solutions that we need is change in policy and change in thinking about plastic. Because only when we start to think about plastic as a resource differently will the policies change that ensure that the plastic doesn't end up as a waste in the environment, but instead it stays within circular systems. And it means that Well, one day, hopefully, we won't be seeing plastic lost out into the environment. So there is a lot that needs to happen, but we need to start thinking more strategically, more clearly, more sensibly about how we're using plastic and the value that we put on that plastic as a resource so that we don't end up seeing it wash down the rivers and into the ocean.
And if you've ever wondered how much food or packaging waste you actually generate when you fly, Gabriel Hong has an in-depth look. Airline body IATA says flights worldwide could churn out 6 million tons of cabin waste next year when passenger travel fully recovers. And that's enough to fill about 11,700 Olympic-sized pools. Head to our website cna.asia and our mobile app for more. There's a new cafe in town that's breaking stereotypes. Now, you might think there are some jobs the visually impaired are just not able to do, like running a commercial kitchen. But a man with a vision decided to prove otherwise by hiring 2 visually impaired chefs to open a new cafe in the heart of downtown Singapore. CNA Insider was there to document the weeks leading up to the opening. Earlier on Asia First, Julian Averill spoke to producer Junie Chan and the founder of social enterprise Punya Cafe, Aaron Yeo. And they began by asking how the idea of the series was conceived.
It started with me hearing about this blind chef, and I was thinking, can he cook blind? How can a person cook blind? So I learned that the chef Alex was part of Aaron's project to empower the visually impaired community. And I was thinking, wow, that sounds really idealistic, right? But could this work in reality? I need to really check myself, So I ended up following them, Aaron and the team, for 8 weeks, leading all the way up to the opening day. And what I thought was a very simple story about disability, it turned out to be so much more. You know what I mean? It boils down to the teething problem that every F&B startup would have. And this guy, Aaron, has no experience before in F&B. So it's really a impressive work of him. And I feel along the way, my observation is all about the clashing personalities, how to get the team to work together, and I kind of capture a lot of trauma in between on my camera, as you just see. Yeah, so at the end of the show, I feel what we can see is that the team members, we don't see them as sighted or disabled. We see them more as like average, relatable human being like all of us.
Yeah, Jeannie. And Aaron, we just heard you in that interview saying that you want people to change their mindset. At the same time, you want to give the visually impaired a chance to prove themselves. Why was that so important for you?
In the past, I used to do training together with my visually impaired friends. And through that work relationship, I realized that it's not just about having a dignified employment. Food was also very important to them because food actually can help them to rehabilitate and to train the other senses up. So I thought, hey, why don't we combine food and dignified employment together? So that's how the social enterprise idea came about, to start a food kiosk and to show the world that being visually impaired is still possible to cook and serve good food.
What were your expectations going in? Did it turn out to be more difficult than you thought?
Yes, it was more challenging than I expected. Before we start operation, we spent a considerable amount of time to redesign the workspace to make sure that it's safer, because kitchen is very dynamic, right? And we need to deal with heat and knives. And then when we started operation, I thought just having good food will sell. But actually, it's beyond that. It's about community building, brand awareness, and things like that.
Yeah, but we know that Rome wasn't built in a day. So, but Jeannie, you spent 8 weeks with the team. What did you learn?
So right at the start, I don't want the audience to go in with the impression that, oh, we should pity them. And I imagine somehow that people will be
不能脱颖而出，既不太会养牛，又有其他生存，这也是他最初选择养殖水产的初衷。
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for bearing with us. We want to make sure everyone had an opportunity to see the Secretary and the First Lady's remarks for the International Women Courage Awards. That brings us to our first announcement today. In recognition of International Women's Day, the U.S. Department of State is proud to once again celebrate the immense courage, strength and leadership of women through the annual International Women of Courage Awards. Just a few minutes ago, Secretary Blinken continued our long-standing tradition of honoring an extraordinary group of women leaders at the 17th annual IWOC Awards ceremony. In celebration of the return to our first in-person ceremony since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, this year's ceremony took place at the White House. Secretary Blinken was joined by First Lady Jill Biden, U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, Undersecretary Zaya, senior official in the Secretary of Office of Global Women's Issues, Kat Vodavat, and other high-level U.S. government officials, and applauding these incredible women. From defending the rights of LGBTQI+ persons in Argentina, to advocating for equal access to justice in Jordan, to fighting for the rights of persons with disabilities in Malaysia, and beyond, the 2023 International Women of Courage have set an example that we should all strive to follow. Their strength is endless, their courage is unyielding, and their leadership inspires us all. In a few days, the awardees will embark on an international visitor leadership program exchange to meet and engage with American counterparts in civil society, academia, government, and the private sector in cities across the United States. This year, in honor of former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright's legacy and her championship of women's rights, we are proud to announce a new annual Madeleine Albright Honorary Group International Women of Courage Award. Given her longstanding support for women's empowerment and leadership, we can't think of someone who exemplifies the goals and values of the IWOC Award better than former Secretary Albright. This honorary group award provides us the opportunity to recognize the courage and leadership of women who would not normally be able to be feasibly or safely recognized with an individual IWOC award. We're proud to recognize the women girl protesters of Iran with the inaugural Madeleine Albright Group Honorary Award this year. We know that countries that empower women and girls to be safe and meaningful participants in social, political, and economic life are more just, they're more peaceful and prosperous. It is a great privilege for the United States to recognize our IWOC awardees for their efforts to advance human rights and highlight the contributions of all women working for a better future. We remain deeply committed to advancing gender equity and equality at home and around the world as a central foreign policy and national security priority. For more information and updates on the 2023 International Women of Courage, we encourage you to follow the hashtags Women of Courage and IWOC 2023 on social media. Next and finally, the Black Sea Grain Initiative is a vital tool to combat global food insecurity and stabilize food prices. The United States strongly supports the efforts of Secretary General Guterres in partnership with Turkey to bring Ukrainian and Russian grain to world markets. We echo the Secretary General's call from Kyiv today for the initiative to be extended and expanded before March 9th, and we agree that the initiative should enable the greatest possible use of Black Sea export infrastructure. Since August of last year, more than 23 million metric tons of grains and oilseeds have shipped through the humanitarian corridor created by this initiative. This includes over 4 million metric tons of wheat that have gone directly to developing countries, the equivalent of about 8 billion loaves of bread. The initiative facilitated 16 ships from the World Food Program with grain destined for places in the world facing the most dire food security crises, like Yemen, Ethiopia, Somalia, and Afghanistan. Before the Black Sea Grain Initiative, when Russia was blocking Ukraine's food exports, prices of wheat and fertilizer spiked nearly 30%, a price shock that disproportionately affected vulnerable people worldwide. The Black Sea Grain Initiative has been successful, keeping the prices down, the grain flowing, and millions of food insecure people in the developing world have been saved from acute food insecurity. The bottom line is that the world needs Ukrainian grain, and we are all better off when Ukrainian grain gets to the world. With that, happy to take your questions.
Thanks, Ed. I'm sorry I missed the very top.
No, we were talking about the International Women of Courage Award. Yes.
Far more important.
Yes.
Personal matters. Well, anyway, on the subject of personal matters, let me just say, and I'll let Sean speak to the association of just personal matters. So, thank you for your time here. We'll have on this be proper, sure, break, proper send-off / roast with perhaps a couple of surprises on the occasion of your final briefing for the 30th
clear about this first. Importantly, we're not in a position to confirm the report you're alluding to. The anonymous claim, I'm referring to the report that came out yesterday.
The report that came out, but there's a four journalists.
So So as to all of those reports, I'm not in a position to confirm them. I want to be very clear about that. The anonymous claim in the first report, as I understand the chronology of this, to be clear, is not downgraded intelligence shared by the U.S. government, and the sources quoted in that piece were not authorized to speak on behalf of the U.S. government. Our point on this has been consistent.
Okay, I'm here already. Wow. Oh my God, Synex. Something's wrong.
The names, and that is ongoing, as we always do when there's a matter subject of ongoing investigation. We will let those investigations play out.
Actually, you shouldn't eat the meat. Eat the chicken. This one eat the two veggies. And I eat the pao. Oh,
Site is not productive or constructive for me to engage in speculation, certainly not. And certainly not when there are ongoing investigations. And these are not just any investigations, these are ongoing investigations by competent, capable authorities in 3 of our close European partners, Germany, Sudan, and Swedes. So we will defer to them, obviously, on the course of those investigations. They will be the one to report on the findings that they come up with in the course of these investigations, but we're just not going to get ahead of what they make.
I said this month is my medical. Okay, go and concentrate on my medical.
I'm not dismissing anything. I'm not
In
ruling anything in. I'm not
April, after
ruling anything out. I'm just saying
Good
we're
Friday,
not.
when I go to Philippines
The specifics
for
in any of
settle certain
made it
things.
over recent days, and we're not doing that
After
for various
that,
reasons. There are ongoing
after
investigations, whether it's an investigation into an undersea blast like this, or an investigation into any other criminal or
I still have to go to.
we
I don't go to JB. So maybe I may go to JB along the way. Not now.
President Biden absolutely not. That's
not done yet.
Instead of saying, well, let's let people play out.
So boring.
So, what are we to make then?
And then I just listening. This. A lot of all this funny.
Good afternoon, everyone. Please take a seat. And it is a special honor for me to be able to say, welcome to the White House. And welcome especially to the 2023 International Women of Courage Award Ceremony to all of you participating here in person and tuning in from around the world. For 17 years now, U.S. Secretaries of State have recognized International Women of Courage for leading the charge for progress around the world. This year, for the first time, we honor the awardees here at the White House. And that really is a reflection of just how highly President Biden, First Lady, and this administration prioritize gender equality and human rights. Dr. Biden, thank you for bringing us here today. But thank you more than that for everything that you're doing every single day to be such a remarkable role model to so many women around the world, and for your incredibly tireless efforts to lift up the voices of brave women everywhere around the world. So we're joined today by ambassadors from across the globe, we're essential partners in all of our efforts to make sure that women and girls can reach their full potential. We have senior leaders from across the United States government here, Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield, our champion, our voice at the United Nations, Deputy Secretary of Defense Kath Hicks, Undersecretary of State Dr. Zaya, our advocate for human rights, Jen Klein, Kat Fotova, who are leaders of our global gender diplomacy. And of course, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, also such a powerful voice for our country and for this administration around the world. And I also want to point out our team from the Bureau for Education and Cultural Affairs. We're working with so many of you every single day. We're also joined by members of the State Department's locally employed staff. They're literally the lifeblood of our missions in every country in the world. To be here today, some of them have traveled from more than a dozen countries in Asia, Africa, Europe, South America, and the Middle East. It's wonderful. Thank you. And in the audience, we have several previous winners of the International Women of Courage Award who are continuing their inspiring work. And the First Lady and I had an opportunity to greet them, to be able to say in person what we were not able to do the last couple of years, which is congratulations and thank you for the incredible work that you're doing. And of course, last but not least, our guest of honor, this year's International Women of Courage. Welcome. When Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice launched this initiative in 2007, she did so to honor women creating brighter futures for themselves, for their communities, and for generations to come. Since then, this award has recognized more than 180 women from over 80 countries around the world. And that includes this year's honorees, 11 truly extraordinary people. As you'll hear, these women are reporting on Russian atrocities in Ukraine. They're fighting for equal opportunities for women and girls in Mongolia. They're defending democracy in the Central African Republic. They're protecting indigenous land in Costa Rica. They're advocating for the rights of refugees, people with disabilities, the LGBTQI+ community. Because of their work, and even as they do it every single day, they are faced with extraordinary challenges that, as you learn about, read about, are humbling. They, their loved ones, in many cases, have endured harassment. They've endured violence. Some have been imprisoned. Others have been subject to misinformation and online attacks, day in, day out. And yet, each and every one has refused to be intimidated. In every region, there are other women doing this work who we can't name individually, in some cases because the attention would put them at even greater risk. So we found a new way to honor them. This year, we're launching a group award named after a pioneer and champion of equality, the great Secretary of State, Madeleine Albright. We have several members of the Albright family here today to celebrate. I like to think I'm an extended member of that family. For me, as I told our friends, I hear Madeleine Albright's voice in my head on a regular basis. The clarity with which she spoke, what she said, continues to resonate and continues to inspire me in the work that I and my team are doing. But you honor us with your presence today. Around the world, women in all of their diversity are often the ones on the front lines of change. And yet at the same time, they face still greater obstacles to their political participation. They experience gender-based violence, human rights abuses. They hold less economic and social power. We are committed to changing it. Defending the rights of women and girls is rooted in our democratic values of human rights and fundamental freedoms for all. And when we advance equality and defend the rights of women, we improve life for everyone. Peace is forged with the participation and leadership of women. It's more likely to last. We know this from experience. Closing the gender gap in the global workforce would add $28 trillion to the global economy. And as Secretary Albright once said, we simply cannot build the future that we want without the contribution of women. That's why President Biden has made gender equality and women's rights a priority of our foreign policy. As some of you know, we recently launched the first ever cross-government strategy on women's global economic security to try to help reduce the enduring wage gap, to improve access to well-paying jobs, to dismantle barriers to women's economic participation. In December, the United States also updated our strategy to prevent and respond to gender-based violence globally, including new efforts to expand access to programs for historically marginalized communities. We're also learning from and teaming up with governments, civil society, the private sector, and other countries to work toward gender equality together, including, of course, the women we're honoring today. One of those, Fadila Belaziz, noted that when it comes to advancing this struggle, success is not about one big act, success is not about one big act, not about one big act of heroism, but 100 small battles. To our honorees, the United States is proud to be by your side as you and others wage those 100 small battles, day in, day out, and we will be there, and be there with you for the long haul. That includes, of course, First Lady of the United States, Dr. Joe Biden. First Lady.